Did you wind up becoming a franchisee for Jets? And take us to the beginning of that story. Where did you get the idea to say, I want to own a franchise?
Well, the franchise idea has always been there, even with the jury, even through doing research, and I would see different information about franchise, and I would read out, like, oh yeah, I want to do something like that, and then I tried to create a company that has something like a licensing, like franchise model, but I didn't do all the due diligence part to really bring that forward, and I can see now why that didn't happen that way. But I always researched. Like I looked into Little Caesars, and like again, the important thing too is that the lady from the funeral home and we will always talk about franchises or talk about different types of businesses, and I will look into like Little Caesars was one of the things. I don't know if I'm sure the listeners have. Little Caesars used to have on their boxes. I don't know if they still do because now I don't go there. I have a home piece of place. So they used to have on their boxes where you could actually get information about the franchise, about being a franchisee. And so I remember I looked into that, and then I looked into a carpet cleaning franchise. They sent me over the package for me to like learn more about the company. And to fast forward to what made me make this decision of jumping into it was this. I asked myself this one question. What's stopping me? What is stopping me from doing this? Like I really sat with that. Like what's stopping me from acquiring this business? Or what's stopping me from moving into this franchise or really jumping in? And when I realized nothing was stopping me, I just needed to, like you mentioned a few moments ago, that the resource started coming. So when I made the decision to do it and to say to myself, what stopped me, to answer myself back and said, nothing is stopping you, the resources started coming. I had a conversation with my mom and my brother together, and I said, hey, we got to get this franchise, or we got to buy this particular business, which is a franchise. And we had a meeting. I did all the due diligence, all the work, due diligence part of this. What I'm saying when I say due diligence, the research of what type of franchise it is, how much it costs to get into it or to acquire this particular store. And I had a meeting with them, a meeting before dinner, because I want us to meet first and eat and make us happy if it didn't go good. so I said before we eat, let's have this meeting. So I typed up this paper. I still have it. Typed this paper up, and I went down the list. And my mom is the person who was going to be the financer of it. So I needed the finances to get it going, but I had the idea, but I needed finances. So I went to her. I said, "This is what it's going to be. This is what I know so far. This is what I have gotten already from the broker and from the broker at that time." And she said, okay. She said, well, go to the next step. And I said, go to the next step. So that I was so excited. I couldn't even enjoy my dinner because I was too excited. I was too excited. And so I went to the next step, and we started.
Hold on. So let's pause it. Let's pause there for a second. So one, just to clarify, you bought an existing location, right?
Yes.
You bought an existing location, which is amazing. And the fact that you went through that entire process, because sometimes an existing location can be a little bit more complex because you're dealing with negotiating and the purchase agreement, and you don't necessarily have someone hand holding you through the process. Whereas you might, if you're getting a new location. It's something that I have a few clients that I've worked with and helped them buy existing locations, and it's been a fun process. But you said a really important point there, which is, for those of you who are watching or listening right now, sometimes you think you have to have all the answers. And so because you don't have all the answers or have all the steps figured out, you're not taking action and you're not doing anything and moving on to the next step. The reality is, once you make a decision, once you decide, and once you start taking action and steps, then the path starts to reveal itself to you step by step.
Yes.
But it's like
That's
the
right.
Martin Luther King quote, which is, you don't have to see the whole staircase. Take the first step in faith. And that's
right.
so hard for people. I look
Yes.
back at my career and my entrepreneurial evolution, and it's been a lot of taking very faithful steps, taking the step, not seeing the other one out there, and then all of a sudden at the last second, it appears and my foot plants firmly on the ground. And some people might go, well, I don't have a family member, my parents don't have money, blah, 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 blah. Excuses. The resources are out there. How resourceful are you?
That's right. And also what I started realizing, just talking about it, just start talking, like be in a conversation and say, yeah, I'm starting this, or this is what I'm going to be doing. And you just never know who in the conversation or in the room can hear you and be like, oh, I heard you was going to do this. I have some interest in it, but I don't have the time, but I have the resources. I have the money that I can give to you, or I can invest in it. And so it's endless, but you have to make the decision first. That's the bottom line. Make the decision first and make the first step of faith, and don't try to figure out the whole thing. Like going into the acquiring a franchise, like I told Tariq some weeks ago, that I didn't even pull tax documents. And that was one of the important things you want to do when you're
I would not recommend not doing that.
And that goes to show you how I was moving through the process. I had P&L statements. That's all I had 6 years of P&L statements.
So P&L's profit and loss statements.
That's right. And the business been there for 12 years.
How did you learn how to read a profit and loss statement? I
didn't know how to read them. Only thing I looked at was the top and the bottom. so I looked at. I didn't know. I looked at what it said it brought in, and I looked at what it said it netted. And then I went back up in the middle and found out how much the rent was and divided that up. Then I went to payroll and said, okay, I'm so much to pay payroll. And that was if you go through my notebook of those P&L statements, it just have highlighted top, bottom, and then for the year, I split up, I divided up into 12 months, what the average probably the monthly was. And so that's what I did. And so for me, just doing those parts, I was comfortable with doing the purchase because I was okay with what the numbers were at that time. So I had a friend, her and her husband had already acquired 2 businesses, and they were helping me negotiate. They were helping me talk to the seller. They even referred me to their attorney who does business closings and those type of things. And actually the seller did the contract, the purchase agreement. The seller did the contract for us. And then I sent the contract to my attorney, and then my attorney revised it and sent it back to him. And then the franchise company also helped us with doing our going over the legal stuff of it, like the agreement, make sure the agreement was good, make sure everything was properly, being transferred over to our company. So I started with, just going through that journey of it in the beginning all the way to the end. It would just be because not mind you, because the listeners don't know, but this happened in May of last year when I went looking.
So May of 2020.
Yeah, and during the pandemic. And so the brokerage firm that I saw the business listed on his website, and it was on his website. I found it there. I reached out to the broker there. The broker sent me the non-disclosure agreement to sign first before he released to me the address and the name of the business. So he sends that to me. And when he sends it to me, I look over it for a couple of days. I send it back. And then I had another business I was looking into as well. So I was weighing both of them out, like going through looking through things, trying to really see which one would be best for us. And one of them that I really, really liked, the seller decided to keep it. And then the pizza place, it was still on the market. So I said, well, let me don't stop moving slow. Let me go ahead and put some urgency behind it before this seller, because it's beginning of the pandemic. And one of the key thing that the other broker said about the one I really liked, that particular business, that the owner decided to keep it because of the pandemic. He decided to keep it because of his job. His job was going to be changing, so he wanted to keep income. So he said, you know what? I won't sell the business now because my job is changing. So now I need to keep this business in case something happened on the job where I cannot work anymore. Mm-hmm. So that was key for me. And that made me say, that puts a fire under me. So, let me call this other broker back before this seller does the same thing. So when I went to call that broker, the number wasn't working anymore. The email I had was coming back as not a working email anymore. So I called the listing website where it was listed at, and I called their company office and said, hey, I'm looking for this particular company. I was working with one of their brokers. She said, well, sir, they called and took all their listings down off our site. That business closed. And that was in May. That brokerage firm.
So the brokerage firm representing the seller closed down.
Closed down.
So now you're like, oh crap.
Yeah. So I said, okay. So I said, well, ma'am, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to call the store and ask for the owner. She said, well, sir, I'll be very careful with that because you signed a non-disclosure. So you can't tell them what you call them. I said, no, I'm not going to tell them. I'm going to tell them I have an important business matter I need to discuss.
If you enjoyed this short clip from the podcast, you can check out another short clip right here. Or if you want to watch the full episode of this podcast, you can watch that here. And remember, knowledge is not power. It's applied knowledge that's power. Take care. Have a great rest of your day.